Hey guys, it's your favorite Dynamite here, and welcome to all another new series for the channel. What if Balerion was in Transformers Prime? Let's talk about it. So, this will actually take place not only in ancient times, but into the modern day. Now, what is Balerion? Let's talk about it. Our story begins during the Great War, where Shockwave and Megatron first actually cloned the Predacons here. The ones that initially went to Earth in the first place here. Using them, they actually ravaged the Autobot colony on Earth here. But today, we're going to not only alter this timeline, but make it fit in a way that I can manipulate the story to my liking and hopefully to yours. So without further ado, let us begin here. Our story takes place with this Autobot colony, actually harvesting energon and making a home base here. They're actually living next to the local human population in medieval times. Yes, I would have this take place in medieval times because it just makes more sense for the Predacons to be around at this time here. Think about it. They're all griffins, dragons, hydras, and basilisks and stuff like that there, right? So, what if this was the time period they were in? Let's continue here. The Autobot colony is being led by one of their captains. This captain being Balerion, an Autobot shotgunner. And so, as he's making sure everyone's all set and ready to go here, a space bridge opens, and he tells his Autobots to stand ready. However, nothing could prepare them from what came out of that space bridge. It was fast. They were fast, strong, indestructible to them here. Nothing could prepare them, could prepare him for their fire breath, their power here. The Autobots were caught off guard here, and so the Predacon horde swarmed them, ripped them apart, and ate them. And so the Autobots that survived gathered some of the humans that they could and fled here. However, unfortunately, one by one, they were all picked off except for one, the captain himself here. Being the strongest and toughest of the group here, he's able to fight off these Predacons here. Unfortunately, he does not have the firepower to kill them, but he does have enough to at least momentarily get them away here. And so he would survive with grievous amounts of injuries. His cannon arm missing, now leaking energon, scratches, slashed up wounds, and his leg is barely even intact enough for him to walk here. He was able to escape by using a grenade in combination with an energon mine to mask his escape here. And so he would make his way through the forest, not knowing whether or not the Predacons followed him, and hopefully he gained enough distance to die peacefully. He can only think about the screams of his soldiers, the screams of the humans that had been ravaged by these Predacons here. And so he makes his way to a cave, hopefully to die peacefully. However, as he enters this cave and leans against the wall here, someone finds him. Someone approaches him, and he looks down and sees a little human with a staff in his hand. This human being Merlin, a great and powerful wizard. Balerion doesn't know what to really make of this moment here, and asks the human if he would just stay with him, just so that he doesn't die alone. To which Merlin says, "My dear friend, I have more things for you than you would expect here." To which Merlin simply raises his staff, and well, a magical glow comes from it. Balerion's body rises up, the pain from him causing him to black out. However, when he reawakens, he's something more. Something not Autobot, not even Decepticon. He feels stronger, faster, tougher. And he looks at Merlin, now feeling a bit oversized for him here. And this is where Merlin actually teleports them to a nearby lake, a big one where he could just see himself here. And so Balerion looks at himself in this new dragon-like form, the Autobot insignia on his chest. And he looks at Merlin in utter shock and asks him, "What is he?" To which he says, "Whatever you really choose to be at this point. Yes, my friend, you are what we humans would call a dragon. But you are more here. You are something better. Unfortunately, my friend, you will remain like this. But hopefully you understand that this is maybe a better fate than just dying. Maybe you could help us undo the mess that has been brought to our planet, which Merlin points across the river to see a village burning from Predacons, them being just laid waste to, the people being devoured and burnt and everything here. And so Balerion says, I'll do it. I'll help everyone. I'll save everyone here. And so Merlin climbs the back of Balerion and tells him onward to battle. And so, with that being said here, when Balerion makes his way to the city, his wings are powerful. His roar echoing throughout the entire world here. And so, when the Predacons take flight after him, Balerion not only moves so fast that he looks like a black blur, but his wings cut through them like a hot knife through butter. His fire breath incinerating them in an instant here. His jaws crushing them like we chewing bubble gum out here and spitting them out as if they were nothing more than a chew toy. Balerion the Black Dread would actually be the name of not a monster, but a hero throughout the ages. His reign of justice and peace as a mutant. Yes, I am going to call him a mutant. You see, mutants, or known as mutant beasts, are actually from the Beast Wars IDW comic. You see, these guys have been around for decades. They are Cybertronians, but they do not have their robot modes. So, they actually adopt secondary beast forms. Yeah. However, in Balerion's case here, he will only be stuck in his beast form here. But luckily, he's big enough to where it's not a drastic issue for him here. But back to the story. Over the years, Balerion's power and lineage here, or legacy, would be written out in nothing more than fire and ash. Enemies of King Arthur, of the Targaryen dynasty, would all be laid waste to if they were evil and if they were cruel. No one would possess Balerion's power. However, we have to fast forward something to modern day. You see, the events of Transformers Prime still happen. Unfortunately, Cliffjumpers does die. However, one of the few things we do have to address, that is the Rising Darkness saga. Yeah, this is actually going to be pretty interesting here. You see, the first part happens the same, unfortunately. Cliffjumper does die. That is a catalyst for the show, showing how, I guess you could say, dark and gloomy some of the stuff in Transformers Prime actually is here. And so he gets resurrected as a zombie. Unfortunate here. However, part 2 actually has a bit differently here. You see, with the presence of Dark Energon on Earth, this causes a shift in the more outskirt areas of Jasper, Nevada, far away from the Autobot base here. The mountains begin to slowly crumble as if they were nothing more than an egg. And slowly we would see Balerion's eye awaken, stating that now is his time to return. And so this is where we will fast forward to part 3, and where Optimus and Ratchet are battling against the Terracon army, and Megatron is absolutely delighted. However, his joy is quickly replaced with fear, and Optimus and Ratchet are both placed with concern when they all hear an earth-shattering roar. And then, as if it was on cue, as everyone looks up, they see this giant black dragon dive down and incinerate every Terracon like they were nothing, little more than cannon fodder. Optimus and Ratchet look in absolute disbelief here as Balerion lands in front of them and sizes them up initially here. However, he sees the symbol on Optimus's arm, and then Optimus and Ratchet both see the symbol on his chest here. However, when he turns to the other Cybertronian, he recognizes him, and he says, Megatron. To which Megatron says, "Do I know you, beast?" To which Balerion simply gives a very dark and sadistic smile and says, "No, but I'll be the last thing you ever see." And so Balerion, at such a frightening speed here, actually blitzes Megatron. Megatron barely has the time to get out of the way and transforms and flees here. Balerion, however, is just as fast as his jet form and begins to gain on him here. We would see a sort of, I guess you could say, cat and mouse here. And I wouldn't say it's like Vagar and Arax. No, I would say this is more like Rodan and the Argo, where Balerion's talons are just mere inches away from Megatron, and Megatron, in a voice of urgency, acts his Soundwave to bridge him to the Nemesis immediately, to which Megatron gets away. However, Balerion's talon still slashes the back of his, I guess you could say, jet propulsion, causing him to tumble onto the ship here. And so this damages Megatron greatly here, and he is now in fear at what he just saw. However, we now have to turn to another situation. Ratchet and Optimus are both absolutely starstruck at what they see here. And when Balerion lands in front of them here, he asks them to address themselves by who they are. To which Optimus is the one to step up here and actually explains who he is, that he's Optimus Prime. To which Balerion's eyes widen in shock, and he says, "Oh, my dearest apologies, Optimus. I am Balerion. I was captain of a unit that was sent to Earth not too long ago under the command of Zeta Prime. It is nice to know that the legacy that he has kept intact has pretty much passed on to someone worthy." To which, this is where Optimus actually states that he is happy to know that someone else under Zeta Prime's teachings has survived here. But may he ask, what is it? To which he says, "Oh, I'm a dragon." To which Ratchet says, "Well, yeah, no duh, obviously." And this is where it kind of gets Balerion a bit more aggression. To which Ratchet says, "Okay, my bad. I apologize for my outburst." And so Balerion begins to explain what happened to him on Earth. That these Decepticons basically had sent these creatures, these other beasts, similar to him but not similar to him. They were vicious, strong, and fast, and so he barely escaped with his life until the human Merlin was able to save him, and well, it gave him his form. While at first he was a bit apprehensive about using this form in combat, unfortunately, desperate times call for desperate measures, and the fate of humanity was in his hands at the moment. To which Optimus does state that he would welcome him if he could fit back in his base. To which Balerion says, "Oh, that won't be an issue." To which this is where we see Balerion turn from giant to basically a more smaller version of himself here. Not so small, but I would actually say he's around the same size as Predaking in his robot form here. To which, why you might say, well, why would you give him a smaller form? And this is the simple reason why. Mutants have two forms, two beast forms. Remember, like I said earlier. However, instead of giving Balerion another beast form like a werewolf or maybe some type of, serpent or something here, why not just give him a size alteration ability where when he transforms, he can transform into a much smaller form? Or a much smaller version of himself, if you will, here. As for how big is his regular form here, or his, more, adept form here, he can fight in both here and obviously fly still. But again, I would say his much bigger form is just close to the size of a combiner, if you will, here. So he would be around the same levels as characters like Bruticus and Defensor in the Aligned continuity. So he's not overly big, like, Triptychon big or something like that. No, no, no. We're going to have him the size of something like Devastator or Bruticus, just to kind of be a bit more, simple. And so when Balerion walks back to the base here, he is pretty much in starstruck here, or at least the Autobots are in starstruck here, while Miko is absolutely giddy. And Balerion actually does get along with the humans because, again, he's protected them for so long that he understands how human children are. To which Miko is absolutely elated. She's like, no way, so you guys have a Cybertronian dragon on your side now? And to which RC is obviously the one that is the most apprehensive about this here, considering the sheer fact that, again, she was apprehensive about Smokescreen, to which I don't understand why, considering the sheer fact that Autobots have fought alongside multiple members for years, but yet somehow they forget they're on the same side as each other. I guess it is what it is when you are a new Autobot and whatever here. So Balerion does introduce himself and does, actually show a holographic projection of himself when he was just a regular Autobot drone, a regular Autobot shotgunner here. And then he asks his Team Prime, what have they been doing here for all these years here? Normally, he probably would have awoken and helped them by now. To which, this is where it kind of gets a little sad here, with the death of Cliffjumper being explained to Balerion. And Balerion hangs his head low, stating that he is very sorry for their loss, and that he understands it greatly here. The Autobots that Megatron resurrected were from his squadron, his army, if you will, here. And unfortunately, he's surprised there are even pieces left of them here, with those beasts, coming to Earth here. Keep in mind, again, Balerion doesn't know what a Predacon is yet, and neither do the really Autobots do, because, again, they were made in secret. And plus, a lot of Cybertron's history was really just never considered unless, you were Shockwave, obviously, right? But anywho here, back with the Decepticons, Megatron is actually getting repaired by this point by Soundwave, because, again, Breakdown and Knockout are not here just yet here. Now, again, it is possible I could have them show up earlier in this timeline, but again, I kind of want to keep some things in order. So, with that being said here, what is going through Megatron's mind? He had never seen anything like that. Something as big and as fast as that beast, that dragon. He doesn't even know how to combat something like that. However, he does have one other thing to do. When Soundwave is done repairing him, he walked towards Starscream, and well, we all know what happens here. Starscream has to get a beating. He has to learn. He was supposed to await his command. However, I think in this timeline, he would be a bit more, I guess you could say, somewhat lenient towards Starscream, in my opinion here. The reason why I'm saying that is simply because Starscream didn't listen and didn't follow his commands. Obviously, this does lead to him getting beat here. However, the beating is brief here. Not because Megatron stopped, but because Starscream is able to explain that they have everything they need for the space bridge here. And so, with that being said here, we would head into Rising Darkness Part 5 here. And this is where Balerion actually does get to know the humans a bit better here. He gets to know Jack, Miko, and Raph. Especially Miko, who's more elated on the sheer fact that, again, they have a Cybertronian dragon. Balerion, however, kind of keeps to himself here, not really understanding how to socialize amongst Optimus Prime's ranks. You could actually say this is a very big detriment here, but again, you have to understand, he's been alone for a while. He still kind of has that PTSD within him here, and, well, when the offer is for him to, go into combat and help them save Cybertron, he's at first a little hesitant about it. Optimus, understanding this, says that he can join him when he's ready. To which the Autobots basically go to, well, confront Megatron and the Decepticons on the space bridge here. Megatron, however, is a bit different here. He's more cautious. He's more wary. he doesn't know if that dragon is going to show up. However, once he gives at least 3 scans over, he actually exits and actually, throws the Dark Energon through the space bridge. And so a lot of the things happen in this original timeline. Optimus and Megatron go at it hand to hand, while the Seekers try to hold off the Autobots from starting a reaction in the space bridge, causing it to collapse here. And so the Terracon army does begin to obviously resurrect itself and, well, head towards the space bridge here. However, this is where Ratchet pretty much tells Balerion it's okay. He understands it. But right now, can you really overcome what you lost and maybe hope to find something new here? I understand that we're not your team. And he also understands that maybe they don't trust you. Maybe not yet. But today you can take a chance to earn it. And so Balerion does look at Ratchet for a moment and nods and flies right through the space bridge here. And so this is where Megatron is about to bring his blade down upon Optimus, who I would actually have on his back in this timeline, because again, I would have Megatron defeat Optimus a bit more swiftly. I would say Megatron's taking this a lot more seriously than he would here due to his encounter with Balerion. However, as he pretty much is about to draw his blade and just, bring it down upon Optimus, he yells out in pain. And Optimus looks in shock, and so does Megatron, as does every other Autobot, as pretty much Balerion has his jaws tight around Megatron's arm, lifts him up, and slams him into the ground of the space bridge, pretty much cracking it entirely here. He then looks at Optimus saying that sorry that he was afraid to go into battle, but he would welcome if Optimus and him would. To which Optimus says it would be an honor. And so Balerion and Optimus both blast at Megatron, to which Megatron has no choice but to dodge here. However, the moment he dodges, he gets tail whipped by Balerion, and then Optimus comes from the top rope with a WWE dropping elbow right into Megatron's chest, and then Balerion actually catches Megatron mid-air, and I would actually say he hits him with a seismic toss in a way here. I guess you can kind of like say how Braviary, grabbed Lycanroc and just straight up dive bombed him into the ship here. And so Megatron is getting overwhelmed here. His arms technically out of commission, or his, cannon arms out of commission because of the damage Balerion had actually done here. And so Megatron is getting overwhelmed here, being chewed up like a whole toy on one end and then beaten up on the other here. And so the Autobots are able to successfully get this chain reaction off here. And believe it or not, this is where the other part of the timeline changes here. Megatron has, well, only 1 or 2 options: die or retreat. And so he does retreat here. And so he transforms and is able to fly off. But using his more miniature blasters, he decides to try and take one of the Autobots with him here, and that is unfortunately RC, who does get blasted just like in the original here. However, Balerion is fast enough to grab her and actually launches a fire blast at Megatron, even scorching his wing here, so that when he lands on the Decepticon ship, he is basically in a near-death state and is rushed to the medical bay by the Viacons and Soundwave here. So, with that being said here, the Autobots get back to base, and this is where Bulkhead and Bumblebee both not only thank Balerion, but are more than willing to welcome him to Team Prime if he so chooses here. Understanding that now he has a new family, a new team, and under the command of Optimus Prime himself here, Balerion gladly accepts this offer. Now, what are the Decepticons in this timeline? Space Bridge is destroyed, but they still have Megatron. Megatron's alive here in this timeline. Or, well, he's knocking at death's door here, but, still got the Dark Energy on his chest, meaning that Starscream can't rip it out. And, well, that does not bode too well for him here, because now he really can't take full control of the Decepticons, because, again, Megatron is still there. However, Megatron does need repairs, as none of the Decepticon medics are available. So, with that being said here, I think it's safe to say that Knockout and Breakdown actually appear earlier in this timeline than in the original. Meaning that Knockout does not get the chance to really do too much street racing because Megatron is in a near death-like state. Meaning that Knockout has no other choice but to be a full-time, in all honesty, ship medic here. Which again, does change the timeline. Further, let's talk about it here. Masters and students. This is an episode for Optimus and Balerion here. And so, with that being said here, Starscream does try to recruit Skyquake, actually stating that right now, Megatron is in critical condition, and they could actually use his help here. Optimus, now with Balerion instead of Bumblebee in this timeline here, does approach Starscream asking him for peace. To which Balerion says, well, they could always burn you and then ask questions later. To which, while Starscream is a bit scared and cowardly, Skyquake is not. However, this bravery comes at the cost of his own life here, and its death is more gruesome in this one here, as Skyquake does get his jet form here, but this is not for the faint of heart here, as when he tries to get into a dogfight with Balerion, Balerion not only outskills him, but straight up pounces on him and begins to tear out his circuitry like a rabid animal and slams him right into the ground, causing an explosion. Obviously, Balerion's calling it, but because he is much more durable, considering the fact that he is technically I guess you could say like Predacon levels of durability, he is, unharmed by this here. This would then, obviously you have Optimus state that, geez, dude, that was quite brutal here. To which Balerion says, well, he doesn't really have a lot of weapons on him. Plus, it's either that or he slices him in half with his wings. To which Optimus kind of goes, fair point. Now, Scrap Heap actually does go the same, and that's the episode with the Scraplets and stuff like that there. Except Balerion actually learns to control his fire a lot better, while Optimus and RC are in the Arctic here. And so then we have the episode Con Job. Now, this one actually does introduce Wheeljack. However, when Makeshift is actually taken out here, it's because Balerion actually sniffs him, and he doesn't smell like an Autobot, if you will, here. And so Balerion tries to put it aside because, again, he is trying to form a close relationship with the other Autobots like Bulkhead and Bumblebee, and even RC here. And so he tries to let it go at first here. However, when the real Wheeljack shows up, or when Bulkhead actually deduces it, he then does apologize to Balerion for not believing him here. To which Balerion does state he does understand it, and hopes that Bulkhead would trust him in the future. Convoy happens the same because Balerion cannot be on this mission due to him being, well, a giant Cybertronian dragon, or at least a Predaking-sized dragon in his normal form here. Deus Ex Machina, Balerion kind of appears at the end, as this is an episode dedicated to Bulkhead. Dedicated to Bulkhead. Speed Metal is where this actually changes here. You see, with Knockout being a more full-time medic here, this actually ironically leads to no type of interactions with Bumblebee and Knockout. Meaning that, well, that just doesn't happen. Meaning that Jack not only wins the race, but I'm gonna throw Jack a bone here. He actually gets the girl in the end here. And so he gets a date with Sierra, while Vince is pretty much, pissed off about it here. However, the next episode I'm going to have play differently here is Predatory. You see, this episode was mainly about RC and her relationship with Jack and her past partner being killed by Arachnid here. However, this is an expedition with her, Jack, and Balerion. You see, Balerion is actually quite, I guess you could say, experienced with dealing with nature and unnatural phenomenons. So when the group goes there, Balerion is able to immediately catch the scent of Arachnid here. And so when she's about to attack Jack here, he actually pounces on her before RC can actually, you know, get to her here. And so Arachnid, using her webbing, is able to make a hasty escape for her ship here, not realizing what the heck she really just ran into, as she only thought there were humans on this planet here. However, before she can escape, Balerion is able to launch a fire breath right at their thrusters of her ship, causing an explosion. However, Arachnid is still able to get out in time and vows to hunt Balerion. The rest of the trip actually goes smoothly, with Jack, R, and RC getting to know Balerion a lot better and hopefully being closer in the future. And so that's where I'm going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I will be doing a whole Megatron comeback art for Sick Mind, Out of His Head, and Shadow Zone will be replaced in this timeline. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and you guys have a blessed day. Peace.